Committee to order. Item 1, called to order. Item 2, outline services. The city clerk, Patty Brochu, will discuss adding boat registrations to the current rapid renewal service agreement.
Good evening. All I'm basically is I want to offer online boat registration. We get to collect the full excise tax, unlike where the vehicles, they take 2.7%. So it would require amending our current agreement. So the informee, the one that is doing this, they get $3.50 per transaction, and the state will get the dollar fee. So we'll lose that fee, but I don't anticipate a lot of people doing it. So I'm not really worried about a big loss of revenue. Like I said, we collect the full excise tax amount, so.
I mean, to me, it's more customer friendly that I'm doing it online.
Yes.
And we're only
yes.
gonna lose $1 or something like that. off
And
each
we're
one.
losing the dollar.
Yeah,
But like I said, I mean,
Convenience.
Absolutely.
convenience, and I don't see it as losing a lot of revenue at $1 a piece, so.
So does this have to go to the full council? Is this something that we can just shake
Yeah.
our heads or?
Because we're amending the agreement, but I just wanted to run it by you before putting it on a regular agenda. So that's it.
Make a motion to move this to the full council for approval?
So moved.
Carol did
Oh, I
it.
can't vote, I'm no.
That's okay. That's all right.
Okay, take charge. All in favor? Opposed? The committee will hear an update on a tax-acquired property located at 79 Sanford Avenue.
So there's been a lot of activity down there. Obviously, that was one of the issues we had potentially with a rat problem. In mid-June, Katie Foster had contacted the mortgage company, sent them a letter, basically told them the amount of taxes that were owed, that there were some potential code issues down there that would have to be dealt with if they brought the taxes up to date, and they never responded back to her. So technically, right now, we've done everything that we need to do to acquire the property. Dave Russell's been down there and looked at it. He said it's pretty rough. The bedrooms are in the downstairs. There's a lot of mold in there. A raccoon moved in for a while, kind of tore up some ceiling areas and dropped some stuff in the kitchen. And he thinks it should come down. I guess at this point, we could move this forward or do whatever you folks want to do. If you want to think about what you want to do, go down and take a look at it. We can put it out to bid. We can demo it. It's really up to you folks where you want to go with it at this point. We just wanted to get it before you. We're ready to do whatever we need to do now. All the notifications are out and basically own the property.
So, I mean, we could just move this forward to the next meeting. Gives us a few weeks if anyone wants to go look at it.
Yep.
Type of thing. I know I'd like to just take a quick look at it.
Sure.
We got rid of the rats.
We still have the pest people out there.
Yeah, they'll be there for a while.
Yeah, I think that was going to be some months, wasn't it? A few months
Yeah.
or something we contracted that for?
Yep.
And it's not, someone told me, it's not a concrete basement, it's a wooden basement?
Right.
Yeah.
Wooden foundation.
Pressure treated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's wrapped in plastic too, they told me.
The foundation, probably up on the outside. crushed
Yeah,
stone.
it is up.
I mean,
I think both
The
sides.
foundation's the same that filled out, put in up here on the corner of Brunswick Street and Stillwater Avenue. He's got 2 buildings there that have pressure treated foundations. So it's the same type of foundations there. How many people would like to go look at it?
I would,
I do.
I would.
So let's see if the 3 of us can get together and go take a look then.
Yep.
Three
So you want-
candidates, council.
So you want to just,
We have a motion to move it forward and we'll do it then.
so moved.
A second.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion to adjourn?
We don't want to do that yet.
We don't want to adjourn yet?
Oh, no, we have one more thing. I'm sorry. There is an item that Bill
not
called
on
me
the
about today that it just came in on Friday or Thursday. We did not get a chance to add it to the agenda. we'd asked Danielle to do something for us, and
When the budget was approved, we approved purchasing the SCBA, the self-contained breathing apparatus for the fire department. And the amount that we had approved at was fine, no big deal, but in trying to stretch our dollars, I went to the banks to see what we could get for an interest rate and leasing on it. The company that we were going to buy them from was going to finance it for 6%, and to me, that was just ridiculous. I have a leasing agreement, which you have a copy with on your desk, that shows 3, 5, and 7-year terms at anywhere from 4.06% to 4.29%. So given trying to maximize our dollars, I recommend that we go with the 3-year at 4.06%, and that will just help ease purchasing it all right up front.
so in 3 years, we'd own them.
3 years we don't them. And it's not there's no lien on it, there's no, we don't have to go to vote on it. It's just a short-term note that Androscoggin is offering to us. Androscoggin and Gorham both work with municipalities on, notes like this or leases like this. They call it a lease, but it's not a true lease. There's no penalty for early payoff, there's no balloon payment at the end.
Check with any banks in town?
I did, yes, and they do not offer any type of equipment leasing with municipalities. I went to Prey and Flannery, and they said Gorham and Androscoggin are the only two.
That do it.
Yes.
So how long will these last? I mean, so in 3 years, do they last for like 5, 6 years, or is this?
Should be 10, is it a 10-year cycle, Scott? The air packs are on a 10-year cycle, is it?
It's a 3-cycle for NFPA, so it may last up to 15 depending on how quick NFPA comes out with they can go through 3 NFPA changes.
Okay.
You're gonna get 10 years, you may.
Gonna get 10 for
10.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. We just wanted to get that before you, and we didn't get the information back till Friday, and I didn't want to let it just set.
All right. So I guess I'd make a motion to push this item to the full council for the next meeting for approval.
Yes.
I'll second.
All in favor? Motion to adjourn?
Now it is. So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Sorry about that. I forgot about that. Been a bad day. All right, public service, who is that one? Council May. There you go, and this is Donna. It's all 4 of us here. Okay, good.
Okay. I'll call the Public Services Committee to order, and there are
2 items.
2 items on our agenda. The first one is cemeteries, and Public Works Director John Rule will give an overview of cemetery operations.
I'd asked John to do this this evening just because I've had questions asked to me about how does it all work, where does the money go, that type of thing. And I think we went over this years ago, but I can't remember, so this is kind of a refresher for everybody in the new councils of how this all works. Well, thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Well, I did notice it was February 17th of 2011 we talked about this.
Been a while.
That was my sister's birthday.
Yeah, what? Well,
So I called her today, told her I was going to do it again. I'll just give you some brief statistics, and I know that there are some more pressing topics as far as cemeteries that we should talk about. But we do have 5 cemeteries that the city owns and maintains, total of 35.8 acres. That's the St. Joe's, which is way out on the end of town. Lawndale is over on Stillwater. West Old Town. Riverside is a small portion of the large Orono Cemetery. We own the back corner of that.
I didn't, that's what I didn't
And
know.
just down the road by the mill.
Yeah.
According to our records, we have 12,074 buried. But from what I understand, there was a time that some old records were lost. It could have been during the fire, or I guess we had a fire some years ago. So we don't know exactly how many people are buried. But we do know for sure that there are 12,074, and that's probably increased by about 6 in the last week or so. Operations-wise, we employ a full-time. Our full-time sexton is also the guy who digs all the graves, does all the coordination, does all of the facilities coordination as well. So he's got multiple hats, and in the summertime, really that's where 90% of his time is spent. Equipment-wise, you know, from an operational standpoint, things haven't changed a whole lot. I mean, we've improved, I think, over the years, the approach, certainly the attitude that we take towards them, and equipment-wise, I believe that we have the right stuff to maintain the cemeteries. Manpower always is the issue. If we have an issue, it's manpower, whether it be for upfront or maintenance. We've been with Charleston Correctional for 6 years now as part of their work program. We typically would hire 6. We cut back to 4 this year, and 2 full-time employees that do all of that not only do the cemeteries, but they do the other 122 acres, the parks, the 4 or 5 parks that we have, and all the other green spaces that we maintain on a weekly basis. So that's all cemetery crew. The same ones do it. Currently, as far as policy or ordinance goes, we don't have one. We didn't have one then, and we don't have any now. The closest that we've got is if you go to purchase a lot, when you sign the agreement as a lot owner, if you don't mind me reading to it.
That's fine.
Party of the first, which is us, to have and to hold the same subject at all times to the exclusive right of the party of the first part, to grade and improve said lot or lots, and to remove any trees, shrubbery, or structures of any kind therefrom, and subject to the restriction that no monument, tombstone, vault, marker, fence, coping, mounds, mausoleum, or other structures of any kind may be erected, or any hedge, plants, trees, flowers be planted on such lot or lots, unless the same be expressly permitted by the rules and regulations of said party of the first, us, which we don't have. So that's the closest we have to any rules. We don't have any specific hours. We try to keep the cemeteries open as late in the year as possible and open them as early as possible. But most cemeteries, at least the one, I mean, you don't have to go far to find that there are essentially rules and guidelines for the cemeteries.
So most of them have them?
I don't know many that don't.
They don't.
I mean, Bangor, the larger the community, the more sophisticated it may become. Bangor has a pretty detailed website on all the cemetery rules and regulations. I don't know that you really care about dimensions and so forth, or how the lots are laid out. The council voted for increases on plot pricing and burial, all the burial fees a few years back. So those are available on the website and down. So those are pretty easily. As far as logistics go, essentially somebody would come and purchase a lot. When they purchase a lot, I mean they lease the lot. They lease the ability to put remains in the ground, whether it be full burial or cremations. But so they have title to that piece of, they don't own the property, they have a lease for it. A lot of times people will buy them ahead of time, or they buy it at the time of death. They just come to see us. We have several maps for the cemeteries. The sexton will visit with the family, show them what lots are available, stake the lot, make the purchase, and then they have the lease. I think the real thing that is the money. There is a cemetery trust fund. And I wanted to talk about perpetual care because there seems to be some misconceptions about perpetual care. I think everybody thinks that if you pay perpetual care, then you get what it sounds like, perpetual care. That means everything. Your headstone is straightened, your headstone is cleaned. Perpetual care, according to the Maine state statute, if I can bore you with that for a minute. This is Title 13, Part 2, Corporations Without Capital, Chapter 83, Cemetery Corporations, Public Cemeteries. A person, corporation, or any other private entity that controls a cemetery shall establish a cemetery perpetual care fund. This fund is separate from any permanent care improvement fund for a community mausoleum on a cemetery's premises established under this Section 1348. The income from the cemetery perpetual care fund must be devoted to maintenance of the cemetery. The cemetery perpetual care fund must be created by depositing the funds at least 30% of the proceeds. It goes on and on. But the perpetual care is the mowing and so forth.
Nothing to do with the
We don't touch
gravestones.
headstones.
No,
We don't
nothing.
put them in. We don't. I mean, I say that we don't. We do, because we don't say no a lot.
Right.
But that's not part of what we do. It's extremely expensive. Now, I can say that recently I sent one of my employees to a weekend-long seminar on how to actually take care of old stones through the Maine Historical Cemetery Association. We do have a lot of old stones, 1700s and so forth. And there are a lot of steps that need to be taken. It's not just go out there and pressure wash them. That's the last thing that we want to do. And quite honestly, if you had asked me a few years ago, I said, well, we'll probably go out and pressure wash them. That's not good for the stones. So if we were to be thinking about perpetual care in the sense that we do it all, cemeteries can set up a fund where you can pay for that. And that is where I go to, there's essentially 4 families that paid for this years ago. We buy them flowers every year. The Public Works Department buys flowers and puts them on their graves. We straighten and clean their stones because they paid for it.
Okay.
Now, I know in a bunch of the research back in the 60s, it was like $60 you could pay to have that kind of care. Well,
$60 a year?
yes. Well, and that, I mean, there's all kinds of ways to fund that.
Right.
But I think that's really where the conversation was headed, as to what are we doing about headstones?
Right.
Because of the 12,074 people that we've got buried, probably 3/4 of them have a headstone. Families have a headstone and footstones. By my estimation, and by Ron Miller, the guy who's out there all the time, we probably need 60% plus need some sort of attention. We don't have a full foundation requirement, where many cemeteries in the area do require a full foundation with a minimum 5-foot bury.
So that would help them from turning over then?
Right. I mean, I was just sit on the ground, or dirt, or a foundation, an inadequate foundation. I mean, a hole that you dig the size of the base and 1.5 feet deep, and you just throw concrete in it, is not a foundation.
Right.
That's a block of concrete. So we have a lot of that. I mean, you don't have to travel far to look at the cemeteries to see they're getting heaved. So there's there's more concrete showing than headstone.
Okay.
And I certainly don't disagree that it would really be nice if we did something about that. But as an example, I brought in a company 3 or 4 years ago, I think. They went to Forest Hill, gave me an estimate to straighten and clean the stones. It was $98,000.
98,000?
98 grand.
Just at Forest Hill.
Just Forest Hill. And that was just to clean them. Clean them, and, many of them, as I found out, can be they can be fragile, and they're much more complicated.
Right.
The old limestone and marble headstones are much more difficult. It's certainly possible, but it's very time-consuming.
And the ones that are on the ground, we don't have the manpower to actually pick those back up. Ones that are laying flat.
No, well,
I mean,
I don't even like to say it, honestly. I don't take any pride or joy in seeing somebody's family's headstone laying in the mud.
Right.
But it is the responsibility of the family to take care of the headstone.
Right. Okay. So yeah, my questions were about the headstones, about, who would take care of that? Could we hire a company to go in to do that? But it sounds like that's on the family. And what was the percentage you said again, John? I'm sorry, I forgot to write that down.
We estimate 60% anyway, 60% of the 12,000.
Okay, but on the money though, how much of that, the money that's being paid in, we use that towards pay for the people mowing and stuff like that?
Yeah, now, I'm not the finance guy. And I seldom see the cemetery fund. I just know that it's around 900,000. 600?
30, 640.
I was always thinking it was 6, but
So then we get a percentage of that each year that we do?
So we can, by that trust, we can only spend a certain percentage off the earnings of it. It usually figures out to be roughly $15,000 a year.
And
So
what,
we use that money to offset Public Works Department for like the mowing and.
so that money just goes into John's operating
Right.
budget to offset what's
Right.
going on? Okay. 15,000.
As per the laws, at least 30%, but no more than 50% of the revenues generated from cemeteries are to go to that perpetual fund. So all of the lots that we sell, all of the burials, that at least half of that, or at least a third of that should go to. I don't know how the finances work. I dig graves, mow grass.
That's all right.
I meet with families and try to console them as best possible.
Right. So the 4 families that are paying you extra now to do that, do we advertise that at all?
No, they established, I mean, this is from way, way
Oh,
back. They
okay.
established this way back, long before I was thought of.
But we continue to do that.
We
huh?
continue to do that.
For those 4. Aren't many spots, are there a lot of spots left in cemeteries?
Eric and I were going over that the other day, and we're thinking we probably got 2,500 to 3,000, because not all of the cemeteries, like the backside of Lawndale down, is not laid out. And so we don't have a grid. I mean, if you saw the mapping system we use, really it's old vellum maps. That's all we have,
So
no
you're-
digital.
yes.
It's pretty, I mean, if we lost them, wow.
Probably not at Forest Hill, is that the?
Forest Hill is still mapped. The only place that we have available is St. Joe's and Lawndale.
Lawndale.
Yeah, everything else is sold. Not all of them are full, but all of the lots are spoken
lots are
for.
spoken for.
I think there might be 1 or 2 in West Old Town.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Anyone have any more questions?
Questions? I think, did Ed have a question?
No, I just saying maybe saving one in West Old Town.
No, I just wanted John to come bring this up because there has been some discussion, and so we can get some numbers and just have a conversation between us if we want to, as a council, do something different or direct John to do something different.
I would mention that, Ron Miller volunteered to go. He took his wife as well, because they do that. That's who they are. They go and straighten stones. And so it's rare that you find somebody that is as enthusiastic as he is about making that happen.
Right.
And I would love to be able to support that. But what that means is that one guy who's in charge of the whole mowing operation doesn't. And it's not a one-man job. So, I mean, he could stay on. If I could designate him as the headstone repair person, I mean, when,
You got a quote
it's
at
a
one time.
manpower issue, though. It's not like I can just go do that.
Right.
Something's got to give.
I remember you got a quote from down the street here of what it would cost to pick those up. I forgot what it was.
Yeah, it was a lot.
It was a lot
I
of
mean,
money.
Ron and I were basically looking. It's hard to tell. You can't just say it takes an hour per, because there's a lot of. I mean, if
Right.
you have to fix one, it could be 8 hours. But I mean, we were roughly looking at effort hours. How many hours available in the summer? It would be over 10 years before you could get to the ones that are done.
Get them all up.
It's a monumental task, really.
Right. And I do remember you did that, get a price, and I can't remember what that was, but it was very high.
How often do they run that class?
Honestly, I'm not sure. He was part of the main cemetery, this old cemetery association that's part of a hobby, and part of what he does with church. So he brought it to me. They had it in Ellsworth. It was a 4-day thing, actually. So I could certainly find out.
Well, I think at one
I
point.
mean,
there
we
was
made
some-
a donation on behalf of the city because they offered the class at no cost. So
Right.
we offered a donation on behalf of the city to send Ron, so that now we have an expert. And quite honestly, the stuff that he learned was a long ways from what a lot of us thought.
Right.
That glue stuff together, and he used to rock and stone and so forth. Headstones are different.
Well, I know at one point there was a couple groups in town, nonprofit groups, that were talking about maybe going up to pick those up for us, stand them upright, but problem is they're going to probably fall right back down because you got to fix the foundation underneath them.
Yeah, I mean, at least you got to make provisions to be able to stand it up again.
Right.
But when we touch them, that's another thing is
Liability,
We
right?
don't own them, so when and I've sent stones that we've touched
Yeah.
the hard way. I have to send them to Vermont to get them polished, and it's $1,500 just to get it polished. Then you got to put it on a truck, And stones are $5,000, $6,000, $7,000.
Right.
So if you drop and break one,
You just bought it.
we bought it. And some people don't like it when you touch them.
Right. Right.
Alan, did you have a question?
Yeah,
Alan,
first,
can you come
I'd
to,
like to,
can you come to the microphone for us, please?
okay,
Yeah, right there.
been a while. First, I guess I'd like to tell John how much I appreciate the good job that he and his staff have done this year with the cemeteries. They look outstanding.
I appreciate
As good as I can remember. And I'd had some conversation with David about stones that had been tipped over. It looks to me like the 3 or 4 I was looking at Lawndale are no longer tipped over. So I don't know how they've rectified themselves.
We fix them. I mean,
You,
I've been out there, and we pick
okay.
them up. And
Well, it looks really, really good. A little history here. A number of years ago, as a council member, when we discussed this, a couple of things come to mind real quick. One was that we had allocated $10,000, I believe, Bill, from the cemetery fund to have some stones cleaned down in the Old Town section of the Orono Cemetery. And somebody went in and cleaned them and did a good job. But I think the figure was $10,000 we'd allocated. The other thing is there was some discussion, if I remember right, about having, and you mentioned the mapping, having that done by GPS so that it would be a lot easier to identify, locate, and plot the lots. Did we ever do anything with that?
I don't
That
think
got-
so.
that went as
got
far
cut.
as the money did.
Yeah, I think during budget season, I think that got removed.
Yeah, well, it might be something you want to revisit. A third thing I'd like to talk about a little is the possibility of finding a way to communicate to the community the things that John has just relayed about the abilities, what can be done, what can't, and what options are open to the individuals, even if it was something that was handed out at the funeral home, but maybe sooner. Another thing is,
Website, do we have anything under Public Works that talks about, is there a heading for cemeteries and any info under that?
I
don't think-
I'm not
Well,
sure. I don't know if there's a link. Or
the
not.
website's good, but my 93-year-old father is not going to look at the website
Right.
and and try to figure out what he can and can't do and what's available to him. But a brochure of sorts might, without putting a lot more work on the Public Works Department, maybe if you had a cemetery committee that could help him spearhead something of that nature so that they could put together a program, certainly with the final approval of the council and John, that might help expedite some of these things and answer a lot of questions, because there certainly is a lot of questions out there. Something else that you might want to include in that is who is available, who can you hire to come clean your stone, pick your stone up, fix a lot, do those kinds of things. If there was some contact people in that brochure, I think a lot of people would just take it upon themselves to have it done. But I'll end with saying thanks, John. Thank your crew for me, and really do appreciate all they've done.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you, Alan. Those are great ideas.
The funeral home may have a lot of that information already. I don't know. Do they?
I don't know, would the funeral home have some of that information, like who could go in and fix the
Oh, I do.
head?
Yeah, I don't need them.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can get that. You can
Oh,
have
yeah.
that, and we can put something together on a flyer or something for cemeteries, keep it here at City Hall, keep it at Public Works. So if somebody comes in, we can hand them the paper. It's great.
You know, a lot, by the way, is nobody needs to call to go over, and I do it. I visit my dad and grandfather all the time. When the mower goes by and the stuff blows off it, I brush it off.
Right.
If it's dirty, I squirt water on it, or whatever it is I'm drinking. And, you know, so it doesn't take a lot. A little bit of effort can go a long ways.
Right.
Right. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you for doing this tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
John.
Want me to stick around for the next one?
Yes,
Yeah, oh,
please.
yeah.
Okay, the third item is the Public Works Director, John Rule, will discuss fall leaf pickup.
So fall leaf pickup and Christmas trees, I'm going to lump them together because it seems as though we've sort of experienced some more scope creep over the years, and we've morphed into a you call, we haul service for anybody who mows their lawn or leaves or Christmas trees. I don't really think that was the original intent, because honestly, there's a lot of man hours that go into that. We provide a place for them. So for instance, I'll start with Christmas tree. Everybody brings their Christmas tree. They get it somewhere. We don't deliver it to them, but then it ends out in a snowbank, and no particular time frame or no particular order. I could get a call tomorrow, hey, I left my Christmas tree's been out back. I just threw it on the side of the road. Will you come get it? And we do. And with leaves, I understand fall, But now we've become the service where somebody will call and say, you know, I'm over on the corner of Brunswick and Oak Street or something. And will you come and get it? I'm just kidding, but.
I know.
But really what it has
Haven't done that
become.
lately, am I? I usually just leave them out for you.
I know, well, we know. We have our frequent flyers. We know, I mean, what it's really become is, it's a lot of man-hours. So what I'm saying, most communities will do, like Christmas trees, for instance, they have designated drops. A brewer has like 3 because they put them kind of central to the 3 major areas. And then for a period of 1 or 2 weeks, that's where you can drop it. You just drop it. And then we come by with a chipper and we do them in volume. And that way, you know, we've got 8 man-hours instead of 160 man-hours in picking up Christmas trees.
So you're just
It's the
suggesting.
same with the leaves. So I would like to say that I don't want the department to be out picking up Christmas trees or leaves, period, other than ones in the city leaves. But that's not my decision to make. So I obviously came prepared to compromise.
So the trees, you would like to have just a couple locations they could drop them off. You guys take care of it.
Right. Let's say, you know, we go until the end of January. It's difficult because a lot of folks don't put them out. They get buried in the snow. You got to send guys out to pick up. It seems easy, but when you think of the logistics of it, you know, you can't get a whole lot of trees in the back of a pickup, so you got to run back and forth, and it just doesn't make, it's a lot of taxpayer money, quite honestly, for an individual. I'd like to designate a location.
Okay.
At the very most. Otherwise, I'd like to say we have a location. It's at the transfer station, which is open 3 days a week, and you can drop them off there for nothing, other than having a pass. So, and the same with the leaves.
Do you do big leaf pile there now for compost?
There's been a license, there's a licensed leaf and yard waste disposal site over there. It's not like we can just dump it either. I mean, there's a DEP license. I meet with them twice annually. There's a bunch of testing done. It's like everything. You think you can just go chuck your leaves. Doesn't work that way. So we spend a lot of time picking them up. We have a running list. So, and a lot of folks will call, and if it gets raining or whatever, you know, we can't just drop what we're doing to go get bags of leaves.
I'll be honest with you, on the tree thing, I knew what we were going to say on the leaf. I said to Bill last week, I said, I didn't even know we even picked them up.
I don't know how we got to that point.
I
think
didn't
it was
even know we
just
did it,
something
to be
that,
honest with you.
Well, it's kind of, with my, if you go by and you see sometimes pick them up, I usually take them up. I try to take them up, but it's only so. I have a big oak tree. But,
Oh, the leaves.
yeah, maple tree, huge, huge, huge. And, but what I have found is that if they're in bags, they seem to pick them up when they go by, but you'd rather not do that.
right.
I thought there was a designated time.
There may have been at one, not in my time, but there may have been at one point that it could have been, Bangor does, and Orono does a 2-week window in the fall where they'll come around and pick. Bangor actually has a leaf truck that will come and vacuum them. So you have to, they're pretty strict about it. You have, in your neighborhood, you gotta have the leaves on the curb by a certain time, and then they will come and vacuum them up. But I think anybody that's out patrolling the roads will tell you that leaves on the road and grass clippings on the road are extremely dangerous. It's like ice. So I would recommend that we don't start saying, just push your leaves out in the road and we'll get them.
So you think we should encourage, what you want us to do is encourage, bring them to the,
Bring them to the transfer. That we no longer provide the curbside pickup of leaves, yard waste, and Christmas trees.
I think the Christmas trees is easy because the people have used their vehicle to go get the Christmas tree, so they can just put it on there and take it to the location. So I think that, to me, that's an easy one. The leaf thing, like I said, I did not know we were doing this, and there was no way we could just do it in the fall at a certain time that would make it easier. But
There are hundreds of man-hours in it. just so you
that,
know.
right.
In total, there are hundreds of man-hours in it. And we'll show up some places and there'll be 35, 40 bags of leaves.
The Christmas trees, I think, would be easy if we just
Right.
said, you don't even have to have a permit as long as the only thing you're bringing to landfill is a tree.
right,
Right.
Exactly,
Bring
bring it
be
out.
happy, don't worry.
Right.
You might do the same thing for the leaves. If this is the only thing you're gonna bring to the landfill, and all you have is leaves, we'll let you in without a permit, because, you know, do I wanna buy a $15 permit to haul a Christmas tree to the landfill?
Right.
26, yeah, a 1 day, which, that's not part of the conversation, but.
Oh, that's another committee meeting coming up about
It is.
how we're paying. That's another one coming up, how people are paying, then they got to pay even more when they go there. So that's a different month that we're going to talk about that one.
They're still paying less than everybody else.
I know, but that's another
I'm just-
committee.
But we're here to talk about leaves.
Right.
And my recommendation is that we, as the city, no longer pick them up curbside.
So we can put that on the website, so but people, you and I both know they're still gonna leave them out there.
Right.
So, does someone stop and say, we don't pick them up anymore, take them up to?
There's like real big dudes in the back row back there. They would help me out with that.
Sending out a letter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying we're gonna stop immediately, that, you know, we would, if we could make the decision, then we would publish it on the website or Facebook page, get it at something, you know, something out in the paper. And then, quite frankly, a lot of people just call and, you know, and we can explain to them.
Yeah.
I find that, you know, ultimately, especially when somebody's really mad, is usually they're mad at something else. It's not about the fact we don't pick up the leaves.
Well, you know, what we did with the other stuff, we had names of people that were willing to go pick up that stuff. I'm sure there'll be probably people out there that'd be willing to go pick up their bags of leaves or something for a certain price. I know we gave names and numbers out for the other stuff.
So if we had a 2-week window when we pick up leaves, and it's outside of that, you pay one of these other guys, if you can't get organized in that 2-week window?
The Christmas tree thing is easy as far as I'm concerned. They can just take that up there. They use the vehicle to get it to the house. They can take it up, no permit required, take it up and get rid of it. The leaf thing, I think we should take baby steps with that. Like this year, have a plan like a week or two to do it and see how that works moving
I've
forward.
got 10 cord of firewood at home. Could you send some people over to cut that? Is that possible? That's me. I'm a taxpayer too.
I know. I think with the leaf thing, I think we should ease our way into it. Because some people don't have vehicles that can take a truckload of leaves up there.
They don't need to take them a truckload. I mean, I get them a bag at a time, literally. You know, somebody will mow their lawn and they take the clippings, and instead of having compost where it would really be best, they put a bag out and come get it.
Yeah, I think we should limit it to the time of year. Just it's this week, or if it's just 1 week, whatever it's going to be. This is the time period. This is when the city's going to pick it up. Period. I think that's, to me, that's a good baby step going forward to see how this works.
You know, I'm going to end this with, it's just like when it's snowing in Orono, it's snowing here.
Yeah.
When the leaves are falling heavy, I got 300 and some odd acres of green space that we take care of, that we try to get the leaves off from.
Right.
So we're trying to get them at the same time that everybody's trying to get rid of them.
I'm trying to get them right.
If I divert all of that manpower at that time, in that time frame, that's going to be tough. Okay, I won't say any more.
Thank you.
Well, does anyone have any more questions or comments, or? Guess not.
I mean,
What?
the tree thing, I think, what does
Well-
everybody feel about that?
John and I will talk about the leaves.
Okay.
We get the message on the Christmas tree, so
Well,
we'll figure it out.
Well, like this year, the people, he's right, they just, we had, it snowed really hard or something after that this year. And
Yeah,
Well, when they came out, yeah.
yeah.
Snow on Christmas.
yeah.
Hey, thank you for everything tonight.
You're welcome.
That's a hard.
Yeah. I make a motion to adjourn. Who's the second? We got Shirley or Donna, one of you two.
Second.
All those in favor?
Okay, perfect. Okay, we are going to move on to the special council meeting. Patty, let me know when you're ready.
Hold on just a second. Okay, I'm good.
Okay. I call the August 20th, 2018 special council meeting to order. Flag salute. Shirley, could you start that for us tonight, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Silent roll call has been taken and a quorum is present.
Okay, petitions, communications, approval of the minutes, there are none. Petitions, communications, citizens' requests. At this time, is there anyone from the audience that would like to discuss an item that is not on the agenda? If so, please come forward and state your name and address.
Hello, I'm Ed Spencer. I live at 1140 Kirkland Road. We're here to present you with a petition to hold a hearing. The topic is expansion permit from our planning board to for the state-owned landfill. Okay, but some history first, because I know David and Stan and Bill pretty much know everything I'm going to say, I think. But this started out last year with the planning board held a series of meetings from about July until November when they finally approved a permit. Citizens were invited to take part. I took part. I filed as a major opponent because it got you more time to talk. And then we just noticed there was some irregularities and some things that didn't seem quite right about the whole process. So, including that they said they would incorporate be open to suggestions from myself, and never considered a one. Anyways, so I thought, okay, so we looked on the city website, and it said, if you don't agree with the decision of a planning board, we have a zoning board of appeals. So on the 30th day, I presented an appeal for a zoning board of appeals. So this, and the time frame here was, it was approved November 14th last year, 2017. So then I got a letter a couple weeks later from the city attorney saying, no, you can't appeal this type of planning board decision to the zoning board of appeals. So I think at that point we were communicating with David and Chuck and I, and we had an informal meeting to discuss these things and decide what we're going to do moving forward. So at that point, we set up a future meeting, right? And with David, Councilor Peterson, Bill Mayo, and Ed Bearer. And meantime, some people could do anything to get out of going to a meeting. Chuck fell on the ice and smashed himself up pretty bad. So I came in and we talked about this, and I, took Mr. Bearer's explanation of the law, and I said, okay, this seems the way it is, that you can't appeal this kind of a decision, and so I said, okay. So I was reading during this process, I was reading our city ordinances for landfills, which is Chapter 24. Chapter 24 has been in effect since, I think, June of 2017. The way it read was, you see, when the state took ownership of the Mills landfill, we had city ordinances in place. Those were all wiped out by the state legislation, okay? But we were told when the expansion happens then you'll be able to regulate the landfill. So during that time, the Chapter 24 was developed, like in 2015. And so that became, if you will, the law of the land and the landfill, right? In June of last year. So, okay, I can't appeal to the Zoning Board of Appeals. What other recourse do I have? Well, I looked in Chapter 24, and I mentioned this at that meeting, I think towards the end, that there are clauses in there whereby the license can be challenged, the permit can be challenged, and as part of that process, it doesn't go back to the planning board. It involves the city council holding a hearing. Now, the city council is our executive branch of government. This is it. We don't have we don't have various other bodies. We have our city council. So you being the executive branch, you would hold a hearing. Then you have choices. You can modify, you can revoke, you can blah, blah, right? And it's laid out pretty well in Chapter 24. And so what we're presenting tonight is a petition for you to hold a hearing. But we're not saying hold a hearing and revoke. We're saying let's hold a hearing, get informed, what went on that we found was, I think objectionable, and then decide on action after that. And there's no particular rush on this, but I would just like to, it seems like during this whole process, it's always the state or Casella, which is an interstate waste company. They're always pulling all the strings, and we're always trying to comply with them. Well, now we have our Chapter 24, I think, and it's not that difficult. It's 43 pages long, Most of what we're talking about is on page 1 and page 42. So I think that's about it.
So you have the petition with you tonight?
Yeah, we've got 2 copies.
If you can just give that to Patty, the copy for us.
Yep.
And we'll talk to our
And
city attorney.
I'll get that to you electronically, hopefully later this evening.
Patty can do that. She can get it to the council.
Well, you don't have to scan them in.
Yeah.
You don't want to get you. I forgot something. In there, I went back and looked at the video of there was quite a bit of turmoil the night they approved the building permit. There was a bunch of activists in here and things, and I got upset. I went back and looked at the tape. I said, "What did I say?" And I was amazing. All that, Catholic school and your parents. I did not swear, and I was surprised, but that's how upset it was. I couldn't really remember, but so there was a lot of passionate opposition, and somewhere in there I thought, we're not getting the whole story here. So I submitted a FOIA, which the city complied with, and I was thinking there might be like a smoking gun, like someone from the state coming around and threatening people or something like that, but there wasn't really what I would call like a smoking gun. But one thing we found out was that the planning board chairman, as of a few days before the public hearing, his understanding was that the planning board could not reject the building permit, that it could only amend parts of it.
Okay.
And okay,
Yeah.
so I guess,
Yeah,
that's
good.
I think that's
We have the petition, and then we'll
Yep.
talk to our legal counsel, and we'll go from there.
Yep.
Thank you, Ed. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, is there anybody else that would like to discuss anything? Okay. Moving on to reports. Council President, I don't have anything. Standing committees, city councilors. Anybody? We're getting very close to Riverfest.
Yes, we are.
What about the crosswalks?
Crosswalks.
What's happening?
Yes, John, could you just, I know they came in a week or so ago, the night of the rain, and they painted a couple of those, and are they coming back in tonight?
They'll be here tonight.
Tonight. So it'll all be done before school starts. It was scheduled for mid-July, if I remember correctly, and due to,
Well, unfortunately, our contractor had a crew of 3. One of the crews hit a deer, rolled the truck, and caught on fire. So
Right.
then he lost not only the truck, but the crew.
the crew itself.
Exactly,
Yeah,
so-
and with the rain, so it was scheduled. We have mentioned about, Bill has mentioned to John about further years getting it scheduled in June. We got to wait till June because John in May goes around, sweeps all the streets and stuff. So trying to get it scheduled in June just in case this happens again, we can still get it. So that's the plan for that.
It was scheduled.
Yeah. Patty.
You forgot me.
Yeah, I did, but go right ahead.
I just want to let everyone know that nomination papers for City Council and RSU Board of Directors will be available on August 23rd, and they will need to be returned by September 7th. Terms that are coming up is David and John Nuttall, and then on the school board is Jim Dill and Brooke Gardner.
So they're due back the 7th?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. City Attorney? Nope. Okay. Special Committee, City Manager. Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. So John and Scott, Danielle have been working very closely with FEMA on the windstorm from last year. We just found out today that out of the $44,000 Public Works had invested in that storm between man hours and materials, we're going to get reimbursed 75% of that. So they're doing a really great job in keeping them updated on our costs, and I'm sure we'll be getting back money for fire and police and that also. Part of that, John's been working with Bax with the downtown lights. We need to have an engineering study done before FEMA will really look at the cost of that, and Bax has actually put that in to get that done. So we can have an engineering study done, then FEMA will reimburse us for the lights downtown also. I think that was it on all my FEMA update. But anyway, we have to have the engineering study done first before we're going to get the reimbursement.
What's the
So-
time frame for all of that? The time frame.
I mean, to get the engineering study
Does FEMA
done.
have an endpoint?
No.
Okay.
But just, basically, we have to follow the steps, jump through the hoops. They're gonna have to have an engineering study done, and then that would all have to go out to proposal for someone to do that,
That's
so.
a study, or?
It's
No,
an
it's-
engineering plan, it's not a study. It's an actual plan of
Who
components to
wants
put it,
that?
what do you need to do to put it back together? Just-
Okay.
Once FEMA accepts it, if they accept the engineering plan and study, we have 18 months to get it done.
Well, that's what I think Shirley was asking, okay.
It's 18 months after
Okay.
they accept it and approve it, but that, it could take them 3 to 6 months to go through that after, we
Right.
get the study done. So we're
Right.
looking at a couple of years.
Yep.
It would take us a month to fix it. Money.
Okay, any other questions for Bill? Is that it, sir?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on, consent agenda, public hearings, old business. Moving on to new business. The city council will consider going into executive session for the purpose of discussing economic development matters. That is, Councilor Nuttall's not here. Donna, could you do that for me, please?
Resolved, the Old Town City Council hereby approves going into executive session pursuant to MRSA Title 405, Section 6C, for the purpose of discussing economic development matters.
Okay, is there a second?
When do we do this one?
That's coming up next. Carol, discussion? All those in favor?
You've got 2 executive sessions. I just wondered which one. One involves Andy.
Yeah, he's first.
He's first.
Yeah, economic development, that would be him. Yeah. Okay, all those in favor again? Yep, opposed. Okay, so 6-0, and then we have 7:25.